Hey, Randy. Just wanted to aim this your way. The world is changing in pretty drastic ways. Politically, here in our country, socially, it's changed massively, and it just keeps continuing. It's almost like some small thing changes every day, and it's moving us forward um, into something else. And I don't believe that the church is ready for it. We're not ready for political change. We're not ready for social change. We're not ready for church structure change. And I think it is putting us in a really dangerous situation. Here's what brought this on this morning. I was reading James chapter 4, verse 4, and it says this: "You adulterous people, don't you know that friendship with the world is hostility toward God? So whoever wants to be the friend of the world becomes the enemy of God." And a couple of things hit me as I was reading this. The first one was simply that my version says, "You adulterous people." And I know the Greek text does not say that, just having, studied for a long time. But so I went and I re-looked it up, and it literally says, "You adulteresses." And I found that to be really interesting. You might just skip over that as you read it, but it puts it in the feminine. And my newer translation, the Holman Christian Standard Bible, it puts everything in sort of gender neutral terms. When it says brothers, it says brothers and sisters. When it says something in the feminine, like "you adulteresses," it changes it to "you adulterous people." And it's trying to help us understand what they're saying, and it's trying to take their culture out of it. But this is not a cultural passage. It was not written in a negative way against women. It's not saying that women are more susceptible to having friendship with the world than men are. What it's saying literally is that the church, and this is who it's talking to, is people in the church. It's saying that we are always considered the bride. We're the feminine part, the female part of Christ. He's the head. He is the bridegroom, and we are the bride. And from a guy's standpoint, that always feels a little bit funny, but I have to realize that God is looking at it and illustrating something in a big picture form. He's not illustrating it as me personally, that I'm a bride. I am part of the bride, the church. And so when it says "you adulteresses," he's making a statement that the church is becoming unfaithful to him. And I find that a lot of the changes that are happening right now, I was just looking at a thing, it's called Project 2030. The UN put it out. And one of the big things that they're pushing is to get rid of the patriarchy, anything that's male run or male dominated or male oriented. And they are looking to increase the rights of women in particular, along with a lot of other kind of things that they consider inequalities, people's skin color, for instance. But women is one of their big pushes, and they're trying to push them into places that have generally been masculine areas. Now, our whole culture has done this. We look at how many CEOs are women. We look at the inequality of pay with the women's basketball, the WNBA versus the NBA. Sports, it has some of the same things, some of those kind of contradictions that they try to make equal, and they're just not. And I think what is happening is that the world around us knows that if they can break down the model of a husband and wife, of Christ the head as the husband, and the church as his body, being his bride, being his wife. And if they can break that down, then what they do is they begin to break down everything, anything and everything that draws a picture of the image of God. God created man and woman to be perfectly symbiotic, to work together. They had different roles. The man was the head, and the woman was considered the helpmate. But that didn't mean that they weren't equal. It didn't mean that they weren't important and necessary to each other. And so marriage, the union of a man and a woman, became instantly a picture of God's relationship with humankind. He through Christ as the husband, and we as the bride or the wife, as the church. And today I find that this is being broken down on every level. It's being broken down by transsexuality. It's being broken down by all the different gender fluidity that they call it. There's not two genders anymore. Now there's 17 or 34, depending on what university you look at. Our kids are being taught that gender is fluid and neutral, and you can be any gender you want to be. Although I do have to admit, I was stopped at a little gas station the other day, and there was a guy in the bathroom, and I had to go, and the women's was emptied, and so I just claimed femininity for that day, and I walked into the women's bathroom and used it, and then came back out. So maybe there are a couple of advantages to that, but I don't think that's what's intended with all of this. And anytime that image of God is broken down, then the ability to understand him and worship him as God is also broken down. And I just found it so interesting that in this passage, then it talks about being a friend of the world, and that means that we're hostile towards God. And man, in our situation right now, in our culture, the things that we have to accept to get along, you don't have to accept them, but you're not going to get along. And so a lot of us are making those choices. But to speak up about gender fluidity, to speak up about homosexuality, transsexuality, to speak up about climate change, to speak up about the way that our country seems to be headed into multiple wars right now. All of those things go against the world's view on things. All you have to do is watch the news or see what's being censored on YouTube or Facebook, and if you say the wrong things about COVID or about wearing a mask or any of those things, then you instantly become censored because you're no longer a friend of the world. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're one of God's people, but if you're a Christian, truth has to matter. And so it really bothers me because I see so many believers, even in my own congregation, they're buying into all the fear. They're buying into all the control. They're uncertain about whether God is really in control of things or not. And you can tell that by the fear, by the amount of fear that they allow to control their lives. And so I was just thinking about that, and it's been a while since you had asked me to start doing some teaching on things like this, and I just have not felt like God was sharing anything with me, and so I have not done that. But now I feel like there are things coming that I need to bring up and need to talk about, and this was the first one today that was just very clear that I needed to get this message to you. Now, this is kind of the opening thing. This is only going to be the first one on this site, but I'm going to probably invite Harry and Ty and maybe Scott Boyd and some other people that I just know would likely be interested. I'm going to leave it open. And so if I continue to talk to you, even though there are more people, who knows, this may just be a one-way conversation, a two-way conversation if you comment or send me a video back. But who knows how this will spread or not. And I'm fine with that because I'm really making it just because I wanted to share this with you at the moment. It helps me to clarify things, helps me to teach in my own congregation and the Chinley Res Church that I've started online. And so I love you, brother, and thanks for checking it out. Either give me a call, send me an email, put some comments in or whatever, so that we can communicate back and forth a little bit. I'd like to know what you think. Love you. Bye.